Hello.
Hello there, and welcome to season 16 of the Bitcoin Takeover podcast, in which we are playing a game that's called 21 Questions. Our guest today is Eli Ben Sasson, co founder of Starkware, someone who has been thinking about making Bitcoin fungible and private since 2013 when he proposed something with zero knowledge proofs, which eventually became, I'm not sure if it was zero coin or zero cash. The two papers were published around the time. But it was pretty awesome. And Ellie, I gotta ask you, why are you famous in Bitcoin?
First of all, I don't think I'm famous in Bitcoin, which is fine. But to whatever extent I'm known, it would probably be because of my contribution to ZK research. So I was a co-author of the Zero Cash paper. I'm a co-founder of Zcash. The Zero Cash paper is titled, I think, Making Bitcoin Private, and a co-inventor of ZK Starks, which are now used to scale mostly Ethereum, but hopefully soon also to self-custodially scale Bitcoin as well. So I guess my fame comes from, being a ZK person for a very long time.
Would you describe yourself as more of a cypherpunk or more of an Austrian economist?
Probably neither. I would say I'm a mathematician, or I come from that area. That's how I got into it, from the beauty and power of ZK. But if I have to choose, I would say I'm more from the Austrian economy kind of side than the cyberpunk.
How did you get your first Bitcoin? Mined, received, earned, bought from an exchange, or something
Oh,
else?
so it's a very nice story. I was giving a talk, and after the talk, we went out to have drinks. So there were Greg Maxwell, Bram Cohen, and a bunch of people. And one of them was, I forgot his name, but he was like a Bitcoin nomad, which means he just roamed the earth only having Bitcoin. And when he heard that at that point in time, I actually didn't yet have a Bitcoin, he said, why don't you give me, $20 in cash, and I'll set up a Jack's wallet and send you a little bit of Bitcoin. I said, sure. So I transacted with him. I gave him $20, and I had a little bit of Bitcoin in my wallet. That I never bothered to write down, the passphrase or anything. And 2 years later, the wallet was stolen along with my phone someplace when I was traveling. So that was the first piece of Bitcoin that I had that I don't have anymore.
I haven't heard of Jax in a long time. Anyway, what would you say is more important for Bitcoin to acquire in the coming years, scalability or privacy?
Scalability first. But I would say scalability is easier because it doesn't change UX. Privacy maybe is more important, but users already, as a Zcash co-founder, I can say users are more open to scalability first than to privacy. They're not willing to pay the UX price yet.
Is the Lightning Network the future of Bitcoin? Yes, no, or maybe?
No, for two reasons: the need for interactivity and the capital inefficiency. I think even with upgrades that will make it better, which I highly support, right? CTV and CSFS, I think they're great, but I still don't think it will change the needle. My peers and my parents are not going to use Lightning networks probably ever. Most of humanity is not going to use it.
What about the Liquid Federation? Do you see it as a viable scaling layer that will succeed in getting traction? Yes, no, or maybe?
Unfortunately, I think no. It's certainly viable, and it's comes from a illustrious pedigree and built by the very best core devs. But I think, nevertheless, I think its usage is probably, I would say if it hasn't increased by now, I don't think it's gonna change and reach mass adoption, unfortunately.
Bitcoin also has the Rootstock sidechain, RSK. Do you think it will get big to bring millions of users to Bitcoin? Yes, no, or maybe?
Here it's more of a maybe because it's new and it is based on, right? It does run at its core, it runs EVM and Solidity, which is already supporting millions of users elsewhere. So it's more of a maybe. Like there's more chance that this may be of greater use.
Do you believe that drive chains will happen on Bitcoin with or without a soft fork? And this can also bring a Zcash sidechain to Bitcoin? Yes, no, or maybe?
I would say maybe because it's into the future. It hasn't happened yet. So definitely a maybe. I can't say a definite yes. I can't say a definite no.
Does Bitcoin need covenants? And if yes, which proposal do you think is the best one?
Yes, I think it needs covenants to fight ossification as long as it just stays one core asset. Um, the centralization forces, which we already see at play, basically it becoming a Rolex, something that most of humanity will only access through the Black Rocks and the signing a lot of paperwork at your local bank and being fully tracked and fully reporting to the traditional system. I think that's the biggest risk to Bitcoin, and I think covenants will open up the ability to do more, which does bring the threat of Mevo, as Matt Corallo and other talk about, but it also offers the escape route from Mevo and offers a lot more usage and can save from ossification. So I think it would be really important for Bitcoin to have covenants. I would love a whole bunch of opcodes that could support and soft fork that could support really good start verification. And the nice thing is that it's very simple math, so it's like really easy engineering wise. But if I have to pick one thing realistically that could come soon, that would be OpCat because it does enable start verification and validity rollups. It's not that I oppose any other of the. I would actually, any upgrade that has some new opcodes and soft forks, I think is great. So I support all of them. But for covenants, I think OpCat right now is the best candidate that I heard of.
Do you believe BitVM and ZK rollouts will play a major role in Bitcoin improvement, or are they just shitcoin imported gimmicks?
They're certainly not shitcoin imported gimmicks. No. Will they play an important role? I hope so. I mean, it remains to be seen. I think the more that we see soft forks that allow them to uh, settle and be used on Bitcoin efficiently, the more you'll see more activity on Bitcoin. Now, some of it will be shitcoins, but a lot of it will not be. And I think that's good overall.
What do you think is the most underrated and overlooked improvement proposal in Bitcoin?
It's not overlooked, but it's, I think, underrated in its importance. That would still be OpCat, just because it would unleash this big value add that would really open the door to massive scale end user privacy, um, anti-ossification, decentralization forces. So it's as much as it is discussed, it is still extremely undervalued, in my view.
Can a majority of miners activate soft forks without asking permission from full node operators?
Well, technically they can. Should they, and is it wise? No, that would be very unfortunate. It's like in any good society, you want very major things to happen by a very wide consensus. Hopefully, even everyone agrees. So I think that technically they can, but it would be really bad. So I wouldn't advise to go down that route.
Should home mining become more popular as an activity in the coming years, or do you see it remaining specialized and industrial forever?
There are economies of scale there at work that would mean that probably always into the future, the more industrialized side would be the majority of it. Should it be encouraged? Yes. But I think I think the opening the door to things like L2s and so on would offer a lot more community-driven operation of networks because you'll have an abundance of L2s. Some of them, that all of them, self-custodially report and are secured by Bitcoin, but they could be operated by, locally in different areas by homeowners and people mining at home.
Is there any altcoin that is interesting and from which Bitcoin can learn? And if yes, which one?
Oh, there's so many of them. Like, I mean, I would say that almost all of them that are not like, look, I love Bitcoin, but I also love so many of the other coins out there. I think that many of the people working on them have good intentions in their hearts. So certainly, Ethereum, many of its L2s, I come from Starknet, so of course, Starknet, I think very highly of. But there are a lot of other um, L1s and altcoins that I think very highly of. I would say most of them. There are a few like glaring Ponzi schemes that I think if you know, you know, or everyone knows. But for the most part, especially something like Ethereum and many of the L2s on it, I don't think that they are. I think there's a lot to be learned of. You don't need to adapt all of them, but yeah, definitely a lot of good people working on stuff there.
Are tokens on Bitcoin via counterparty or ordinal inscriptions a complete scam, or is there something interesting and useful about them?
The latter, they're not a complete. I mean, they are not categorically all of them a complete scam. Certainly not. I think a lot of people behind them do have good intentions, and I think there's a lot to learn from them. And yeah, I don't hold to the. I think Bitcoin is the most important cryptocurrency, and I hold it in high reverence. But I don't think it's the only thing that should exist. I think there's a lot of economic activity and value that deserves to be placed on Bitcoin. And yeah,
Is the maximalist thesis about building everything on Bitcoin, even if it's scammy, or is it about calling anything that is not BTC a scam?
I would go more with the former, meaning that I would like to see a lot more economic activity that embraces much more of our lives on Bitcoin. And once you allow a lot more economic activity, my vision, or sorry, my belief is that like the majority of it would be legitimate and good. But yes, there will be scams and there will be crimes and bad stuff appearing there. But I think any arena with meaningful economic activity will also have bad apples in it, and you're better off having Bitcoin and its principles and its decentralization and its transparency and its integrity encompass a wider set of economic activities. And if you do want that, as I do, you have to acknowledge that it will also have within it some scams, which, by the way, even if you only have pure Bitcoin, you will have people using just pure Bitcoin also for bad stuff. So it's unavoidable. And I would like to see, I think Bitcoin is a better way of dealing with integrity in society and economics. So I would like to expand its use.
Do you believe Bitcoin will ever get a block size increase? Yes or no?
Yes, I don't think it, I believe that in the future. Well, look, technologies must scale up, and you have all of these effects of like computers across almost every metric, they're getting better. So I think it stands to reason that this could happen without breaking anything about the way Bitcoin operates. So now, is it something burning? Am I advocating for it now? No, but I really hope if it doesn't happen, I think it's another sign of just ossification, and that would be very sad. So I'll go with yes because I'm an optimist and I want Bitcoin to continue evolving.
You basically predicted the next question, which is what is more dangerous to Bitcoin, to ossify and become a captured system, or to deal with a buggy soft fork?
Oh, definitely. The former is much more dangerous. It is dangerous because it threatens the core value proposition of Bitcoin, which is decentralization. So ossification is a clear path to centralization, as we're seeing today, right? The more it stays stable and the more it doesn't allow things like L2s to happen or payment channels and make them of use, the more likely that the only way you and I can access Bitcoin will be by, filing a huge number of forms at your local financial institution, which is, by the way, exactly the case right now, right? You want Bitcoin to go back to its, more cyberpunk origins. Well, you gotta add some opcodes that are going to allow that. Otherwise, we're all going to do it through BlackRock and traditional financial institutions. It's happening today.
Can Bitcoin get replaced by a better design of internet money?
Theoretically, yes. I think it's highly unlikely. Just the network effect and the fact that it's the first mover makes it so unlikely. It's like, I'll give you an analogy. Can the Visa payment system with its credit cards, with its 16 digits or so on, get replaced by some other thing? Well, very unlikely in a very long time. Can TCP/IP, which is, there's so many much better protocols, can it be replaced by a better way for internet? Theoretically, yes, and there's so many good suggestions, but practically, I think very unlikely. So same goes for Bitcoin. Like very unlikely in the near future. More likely will be that Bitcoin will, due to all of these needs to upgrade, it will slightly upgrade with time, and it will just be this system that evolves slowly, but does grow in its power and potential.
If you could travel back in time to tell Satoshi to change something about Bitcoin before launch, what would it be?
I'm not sure if before launch, but I would definitely ask him to not remove the whole bunch of opcodes that he removed, I think in 2011. Would just say, look, let's be more careful about that, and let's find other mitigations. So you have all of the opcodes for multiplication and concatenation and all the good stuff that he wanted. Um, and then you would, I'm pretty sure that if you had that back then, there would probably be no other, or much less likely that there would be any other alt ones. And I mean, so many people, Vitalik wanted to do stuff on Bitcoin, but realized it's impossible. We wanted to deploy zero cash on Bitcoin, but we realized it is impossible, right? If we could, we would have done it there. So that's what I would have asked him, right? To sort of keep on those opcodes and find some other small mitigations against the threats that they introduced.
Bitcoin has this so-called security budget issue because in an environment where you have the mining rewards diminishing every 210,000 blocks, you are running under the assumption that there will be enough transaction fees to make up for the diminishing rewards. So how do you believe this is going to get fixed? With higher fees, more fees from side chains or bigger blocks, or some sort of monetary inflation?
I would say initially the second, which is more fees from side chains. And I think that down the line, maybe it would be nice if there's consensus around more inflation, but not anytime soon.
Interesting. Eli Ben Sasson, thank you very much for joining 21 Questions.